Are you serious? Are you serious? The RFID microchip and how it relates to the mark of the beast. You guys know last year I wrote a book, Mark of the Beast, RFID. And this book didn't just only deal with the RFID, and you can find this book at my website, it's the only place it is. It didn't just only deal with the RFID and the Obamacare. Matter of fact, the video that I have the most views of any video I've ever done is the 666, the microchip implant, with over 1.2 million views. The fact that it is in the Obamacare bill and was supposed to be implemented no later than the 23rd of March of this year, 2013. But they couldn't pull it off. They can't even make a website work yet at the Obama administration. So the microchip was pushed to the end of December 2017. Meanwhile, the Obamacare struggle and fight in this nation over health care continues. And it's actually being orchestrated exactly according to plan, to create chaos, confusion, and then get everybody just to give up and throw everybody into a one-payer system, or what I would call...
I had to stop it for a second. So you see what's going on right now with the health insurance initiative. Imagine all the problems the chip is going to have. Okay? Doesn't matter if it's the 666, RFID, Mark of the Beast. You know what? Let's just be realistic about it. If the website has this many problems, what's the chip gonna do when inserted? All right? I mean, it's just common sense. If they can't get it together with a website, how can you have a microchip inserted in you and then expect for it to work correctly? I mean, what kind of problems could that do? Okay? Alright, let's continue. But I'm just saying, if you can't get it together on a website, what do you think's going to happen when you try to insert that chip? What kind of problems is that going to do? Alright? I mean, I'm just going with what I see just on how the mishandling of a website. What's going to happen with the chip and the functioning of the chip? Think about it. I'm just being logical about it. Whatever the agenda is, we're going to look at the track record so far on the technical electronic way things are being handled now. Alrighty then? Okay, let's continue.
Socialized medicine, but not like you have in Canada or not like you have in the UK. Oh no, this is a whole new world, and I've got some information I want to share with you from experts, two or three experts who know exactly what I'm...
I just can't stand it. You know, the track record. Follow their track record. Alright? So far, it took 3 years to not be able to do it, or 4, and have their blank together on this. This brings up a lot of issues, and the integrity of this program, if they were to implement a forced ID chip into everyone, which it is in Obamacare. Start going through the pages of it. I'll have to research the actual what page, what line it's in there that they signed. Everyone in that Congress and Senate signed that it was to implement this without reading it. I think they're all out of a job now. What do you think? It was passed, so they're all under that umbrella of what's going on now. Just keep that in mind. I can't see them ever being able to move forward on something that is going to be placed into someone's body, and the security, and it can't get, and technically the chip won't malfunction, the chip won't cause tumors, the chip won't burn you at some point in time. Lithium battery in the chip. Alright? You catch what I'm saying? Don't have to worry. Whatever agenda it is, doesn't matter. They have a bad track record. Alright? And everyone in that Congress and Senate, doesn't matter if there's one or two, but everybody, Republicans, Democrats, doesn't matter. They passed it. They passed that law about putting a chip in you. They passed that law about forcing you to do some kind of socialized medicine that's not socialized medicine. This is not the same as Canada, and it's not the same as Britain. I'm telling you. And Miss Pelosi, they say, oh, we got to sign this without reading it. Right? I'm just saying, look at the track record. And because they stepped down, that doesn't mean they're not responsible for all of this. And they are going down in history. There are future generations that are going to look back at this. Obviously, they don't care about how they're going to be remembered. I guess they just don't care. This reminds me of Rome. You know, this must have happened on Mars. You know that? This is, when they worry about what happened to Mars, I bet you the Martians did come here after they destroyed Mars. They moved to Earth. And they're doing the same thing again. History's repeating itself. And for them to try to terraform Mars, that's not going to work. Alright? That's the only other option I can think of, that they're looking for a place to run to because of all this nuclear stuff, and then they'll do it again on Mars if they haven't already, and that's why Mars is the way it is. They're just going back to see if the radiation levels have gone away. Of course they haven't. Alrighty then, to continue. Sorry for that outburst. This is just ridiculous. You know? Not going to be able to pull it off, not with that track record. I don't know who their consultants are, but whatever agenda they were trying to do, it didn't work, basically. And after 2012, it's like the apocalypse. That means unveiling. That's why you're seeing the truth now. The veil has been lifted. They can't hide any secrets of craziness anymore. That's what apocalypse means. The unveiling. The veil has lifted. That's why you see all this stuff now. Alrighty then. I don't know. I'll just continue. I'm sorry for that outburst.
Talk about, including Perry Stone. First of all, let me play for you right now. This is Vice President Joe Biden, when he was still Senator Biden of Connecticut. And there was a Chief Justice who was nominated by George W. Bush, a Republican, to become the next Chief Justice.
And the chip could get a virus. Look up H2. There's a TV series, H2, where they all had the chip and everything was honky-dory. It looked like Google Glasses without the glasses on, right? It's without the Google Glasses. And all of a sudden the chip shut down everyone's geotrack. And only those who were in a sub-basement of an airport and a few other places around the world didn't get affected by it because someone had hacked in, put a virus. You tell me that's not reasonably feasible, that something like that could happen? Or identity theft? Or are people going to start chopping people's hands off to grab your chip? Start waving your part of, dismember people and wave it around so they can identity thieve you? Oh no. Oh, what a good idea, this chip, isn't it? What do you think? I'm sorry. Who are their consultants? I'll continue. I just think for yourself. Have an imagination. What could go wrong? You know. And I'm being scientific about it.
Of the Supreme Court, a man named Roberts. That's right, John Roberts. And during the confirmation hearing, listen to what Joe Biden tells John Roberts he will have to rule on in the coming years as the new Supreme Court justice. Listen to this.
Can a microscopic tag be implanted in a person's body to track his every movement? There's actual discussion about that. You will rule on that, mark my words, before your tenure is over. Can brain scans be used to determine whether a person is inclined toward criminality or violent behavior? You will rule on that.
Now, that you could hear him pounding his fist on the desk. He specifically is saying to John Roberts, you will rule on the microchip that can be implanted in people's bodies. Now, of course, here we are. Joe Biden's the vice president of the United States. John Roberts is the highest sits in the highest seat on the highest court of the land. And Obamacare shows up, and Nancy Pelosi says we have to pass the bill to find out what's in it. And now we have. First of all, the bill passed with 2,300 pages. Today it has over 5,500 pages and growing as they continue to add more procedures to the bill on how to implement what they passed, including a microchip. Now, there was another man who was in a service recently who overheard preachers talking about the microchip and talking about it, that even some of the clergy would start taking this chip. I'm going to find that for you.
A couple of weeks ago, I really got shaken up by a sister that to the church that in New York City that she's visiting. The pastor and the leader in the service, they were talking, and the one of the leaders there and the pastor was talking about the RFID chip, and they was telling people in the congregation that the RFID chip is not the mark of the beast. And so he called one of the leader up and said, show him the RFID. And so he has it in his right hand right there. I believe it's under there, his right hand arm. And he was showing it to the people, and the pastor was saying to the congregation, everyone was applauding what was going on. They said, you see, we got it. Nothing wrong with the RFID chip.
So there's some major pastors who've already had implanted in them the RFID chip and are saying in front of their congregations, and that's the message they're trying to sell.
Oh. Also, what happens if you have that chip and there's an EMP and it starts shorting everything out? What happens if there's a solar flare? Do you lose all your information, your bank account? Do you just totally get wiped out since no one will have cash on them? Is your identity gone? I'm just saying, all your medical history, everything. If there is a solar flare, if there is an EMP, an electrical magnetic pulse, I want you to think about that. They're so quick to put a chip in, but then they're worried about EMPs, right? Then you totally get wiped out, right? Live, this is one for the record, a free consultation to the people that think implementing an RFID chip is feasible. Here's your free consultation while I'm uploading something else. Alrighty then, because I couldn't wait. I just kept interrupting the screencast. I just couldn't wait. So, Mr. Biden, do you guys really think that you're gonna brain scan people to see if they have a potential towards criminal activity and violence, when most of our younger generation grew up with video games? Others have been indoctrinated into the military, or even watching Star Wars. What would that brain scan find if someone had watched Grand Theft Auto video game and played that? Most of your video games. They're not, you know, even yourselves growing up as kids, you didn't play video games? It's ridiculous. First of all, the brain scans, everyone's brains are gonna, most likely, doesn't matter who you are, has watched an action movie, or been in the military, or played video games. One of those, I would assume, would come up with a negative finding of character. Correct? Because somewhere in our deep subconscious, those memories are in there, right? Even our history as a country, even taking history. Someone might have a memory of violence, or just growing up in Los Angeles or a big city. I'm sure they all have witnessed somewhere down the line some type of violence in school. So what would your brain scan find? What is it looking for? Do you see what I'm saying? So first of all, that brain scan testing would actually be compromised in its findings. That's number one. That's number one. Number two, do you really think that you would be able to sustain and implement a working RFID chip that has a lithium battery, a microchip? Do you think that would be affected by the radiation of Fukushima? I'm asking you this. See, unfortunately, you guys decided not to clean up Fukushima, so the radiation would compromise the chip. Do you understand that? And most likely wipe most information off of it, if the chip doesn't short out under your skin. And I'm sure the higher levels of people in certain agencies, they already have a chip. Those must be the 2 million people that have a chip already. And in the military, you don't think that the chip will malfunction even in low levels of radiation? Will the chip itself put out radiation? What do you think? And if there's an EMP, what's that going to do to the chip? If there's an EMP, solar flare, or if another country decides to put an EMP, now the country's really vulnerable, isn't it? What if the system gets a virus? What if it gets hacked? What if you're standing by a giant magnet? If you have a chip, are you able to do an MRI? I don't think so. Are you able to do an MRI with a chip inside of you? Or would the magnet rip it out of your skin? And or make it malfunctionable? I want you to think about these things. And for those who haven't read Obamacare, you better start reading it instead of running around blindly, because you're going to be chipped like a dog or a cat. Does the chip cause tumors? It does in a lot of pets. So, I guess you should have, first of all, number one, the brainiac should have thought about the radiation. That's number one. Number two, about magnets or MRIs or CT scans. Do you understand? You already foiled that plan. You could try to implement it, but it's not sustainable. Oh no, it's not sustainable because you never bothered to control Fukushima. That's the end of that plan, so you might as well put it back on the shelf. Prove me wrong. That's all I have to say. Just prove me wrong. And for those who went, oh, it's all the people in Congress, the Senate, it's all the politicians that are in there now. They passed this. I want you to think about that. They passed that. So I guess they're the first ones to be chipped, if they're not chipped already, with their lithium batteries. It's a shame. Too bad they don't have the logic of a scientist. And too bad my peers are idiots to think that they can go ahead and do this without adverse effects. Alrighty then, go back to the drawing board and figure out a new plan. I'm sorry for shattering your dreams of controlling the world.
And he was showing to the people, and the pastor was saying to the congregation, everyone was applauding what was going on. They said, you see, we got it. There's nothing wrong with the RFID chip.
So there's some major pastors who've already had implanted in them the RFID chip and are saying in front of their congregation, see, I got it. There's nothing wrong with this. This isn't the mark of the beast. This is just a new advanced technology. And that's the message they're trying to sell the masses of congregations. And let me tell you why. Because and look, I'm not saying that the RFID chip specifically in the Obamacare bill is the mark of the beast. I'm not saying that. What I am saying, though, it is the technology that could be used to implement the mark of the beast. If you read Revelation 13, you will see it literally. The one world government, which will be the beast, which you can find in Revelation 13:1. That beast is going to rise, and he's going to have to be led by an Antichrist, and you can find that in Revelation 13:11, who he is. And he'll have a sidekick, which will be the false prophet, and the false prophet will rise up as well, and will help the Antichrist implement the mark of the beast. And you can find these things in Revelation 13, and 13 through 16 through 18. It tells you exactly how it's going to be developed. Now, the mark of the beast system has got to be implemented. It's got to be done somehow. And I've always said to you folks that technology is catching up with Bible prophecy. This is why we're in the last days. This is why you see this advancement in technology and informations and systems, because Lucifer's got to have a way to control you. But just the system alone is not enough. You've got to change the thinking of the mind of the people, especially the Christians, who are going to resist this thing, unless you can get the pastors to buy in, to help sell it by paying them, or whatever means of manipulation that the government and world leaders will do. And there's some pastors out here, they're not real, okay? There's some great men of God who truly love Jesus Christ and preach the Word of God, and we're not afraid to tell you the truth. But there is others that are blinging and flinging who need to be absolutely removed, left hook, pulled out, whoop, off stage, because they're shysters and charlatans, and they don't preach the Word of God. Let me play for you now. This is Perry Stone, and I'm going to play for you about a minute and a half of what he has to talk about twice. He has 2 different minute-and-a-half sections. I think it's very important for you to hear on the teaching of the microchip and how it could be used for the mark of the beast. Let me find where I need to start on Perry here. Give me 1 second here.
It's messy.
Find it right here. It just takes a second. Here we go. Here's Perry Stone.
Beast. We shared about the first beast of Revelation 13:1, who is the Antichrist. The second beast of Revelation 13:11, who is the false prophet. The false prophet is going to initiate something that is mentioned in verses 16 through 18 of Revelation 13. He, again speaking of the false prophet, causes all small, great, rich, and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark on their right hand or in their forehead, so that no man might buy or sell except the one who has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here's wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it's the number of a man. His number is 666. Now, the question that comes up is, why would the false prophet and the Antichrist team together to initiate a mark to control all buying and selling? The answer is threefold. Revelation 18:8, there will be limited food supplies on earth because of famines and drought. Revelation 6:5 and 6, controlling the food by rationing will give you power over the nations. And this is important. Food will be rationed during this time. Revelation 13:16 through 18, you can control the masses by giving them food, and then they have to convert to your religion.
This is why the false prophet is so important in the end time with the Antichrist. Because the Antichrist alone, communists alone, can't drive this thing home. You also need to tap into the spiritual side of the human being. And not only force them to do something, but make them believe it's good. And that's where the false prophet comes in. Now remember something though. This is very clear. I want to say this again. The false prophet rises from radical Islam, and the reason it is, because if you read Little John, it tells you an antichrist spirit is anyone who doesn't profess Jesus Christ as Lord. Okay? You have 7 different denominations of Christianity, but even though they all disagree in doctrinal issues, there's one name they all agree on as a Savior. It's Jesus Christ. Got to sort the rest of it out. But false prophet coming from Islam calls Jesus Christ, first they call him a prophet, but ultimately they want to wipe out all Christians and Jews because they're called infidels. And this is why you have to have a false prophet to go along with an Antichrist if you're going to drive the message home. Now let's go here, Perry Stone again. I want to play another about a minute and a half for you as he talks about the technology of the mark of the beast. Give me 1 second here, and we'll be ready to play it for you. Here we go. Perry Stone.
Then this one became very, very intriguing with me, and this was what was called the chip implant. This is called the RFID radio frequency chip implant, which is the size of a grain of rice. It operates off of a lithium battery. It is now being inserted in pets and people. Listen, 2.5 million people now have this chip. And guess where they put it? You got it. In the right hand or in the forehead. And the reason they insert it right here between the thumb and the finger, because that's a comfortable spot for you, or they do it right below the hairline. In Brooksville, Florida, years ago, I met a man who happens to do work with satellites. He was working on a Russian satellite doing micro welding. This man was not a Christian. A friend set up a meeting with us for me to discuss with him technology. He said, do you know in the space shuttle right now they have a chip? And they're testing it in the space shuttle. I said, what is it? He said, it's a chip that years from now will go into your right hand or your forehead. I said, you're kidding me. I acted dumb. He said no, and it's going to have all your information on it. You won't need a bank card. You won't need a social security card. You won't need money. You'll just scan your hand. I said, are you serious? He said, yeah. And by the way, the guy had a computer in his office and could talk to the space shuttle and did it while I was there.
Are you serious? So Perry Stone, of course, talking to a NASA scientist who's explaining about the microchip that can be implanted already in the right hand or in the forehead. And matter of fact, as you heard Perry say, 2.5 million people worldwide already have microchips in them. And the guy from NASA says, hey, listen, we're putting up on the space station and in satellites the component of this microchip system so that it can so that anywhere you go, you are a GPS, your banking information, everything you need to function in this new world, this one world government, is going to be able, you'll be able to do it through the microchip that's in your body. Now, it's, folks, you have to understand, now in the Obamacare bill, which was H.R. 4872 and H.R. 3590, if you go back and watch my video I did on 666, the mark of the beast, it's got 1.2 million views, but and in it, I explained to people that it's due to be implemented by March 23rd. Well, obviously, the Obama administration, our federal government, can't get anything done right away, so they had to push that out. They changed the date in the law to now it's supposed to be implemented by December 31st, 2017. That's part of that growing reason that the Obamacare bill has grown. That's part of the reason. It says specifically that there's a class 2 implant that goes into pacemakers, breast implants, chin implants, pain pumps, but there's also class 3 microchip implants, and they have to do with your identification registry. That is the chip that the NASA scientist is talking about. That is the chip that Perry Stone is trying to describe. That is the chip that the other gentleman was trying to say that pastors already are receiving and are sharing it with their mega churches in some cases. Folks, this thing is coming faster than you can think. So you can go to your Bibles. Boy, I wish I had more time. Do I have more time? I think I do. I'm going to go a little further. Go with me right now. I'm going to go past 15 minutes on this one. Go with me. Do you want me to do this? I mean, we could go, you know, I don't care. You can go out and you can go watch Duck Dynasty if you want to, which are fine. Or you can go watch, whatever you want to do. You can go hang out with the Desperate Housewives of Atlanta. Or we can find out what's going on. Here's the deal. In Revelation, the Bible tells you, of course, in Revelation 13, it says, and I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw... Watch, whatever you want to do. You can go hang out with the Desperate Housewives of Atlanta, or we can find out what's going on. Here's the deal. In Revelation, the Bible tells you, of course, in Revelation 13, it says, and I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Of course, that is the beast, which is the one world government, the Antichrist, who is the head of that beast, and also his 10 little kings that will be worshiping under him, who will be in charge of the 10 sectors that the Illuminati already has, and they will be kings because they have crowns, and their crowns say blasphemy. So there's no Jesus anywhere. You can't find any Jesus in the New World Order. In the New World Order. These preachers are being deceived, and the Bible says they are blind leaders of the blind. So listen to me when I tell you that. Now, having said that, go on down to Revelation 13 and look at verse 11. He said, and I beheld another beast, that's the false prophet, coming up out of the earth. And he had 2 horns like a lamb, but he spake as a dragon. Obviously, he's a liar, and he's using manipulation to help push.
I think I'm going to make this a Creative Commons so everyone can upload my video. It should show up in there. Because it's a free consultation to all. Here's another question about the RFID chip, you fluoride head scientists and everyone else that thinks the chip is okay. Let's say someone gets your little RFID chip in your hand, then you hurt your hand. How are they going to x-ray your hand? Not. I guess it's going to distort the picture, isn't it, on the x-ray? Or mess with your bank account, huh? Have you guys even... Too much fluoride. Alright, I'm sorry. I just keep thinking about this stuff, and it's just... It must be too much fluoride, which I don't think... I've been known to use fluoride, but how come I can think of these things? Especially if you get it in your head and you get a concussion and they want to x-ray your head. Isn't that gonna distort the x-ray picture? You can't... Or what about an MRI? I already said that one, though. Alrighty then. It's just... What's going on with these fluoride heads? It's just incredible. Oh well. Does that mean medicine goes backwards? Wow, how much money is the medical profession going to lose with these RFID chips? They can't take x-rays. What about dentists? If you have the chip in your head, then what? Is that, I mean, you understand what I'm saying to you? Wow. Better think about it. You think about it very carefully. What I'm trying to convey to you with all this stuff. I just have to add one more thing, because I was watching the one on the brain scan, checking my video out. Alright, you geniuses out there, my scientific idiot peers, what about fight or flight response? That's all ingrained in our DNA, fight or flight. Right? So I guess we're all subjected to fight somewhere in our wiring. Right? So, what's the use of the brain scan? It's part of our genetic makeup. Fight or flight. That's just how our DNA, that's our genes. Alrighty then. So there you go. I saved you guys a bunch of money from having to brain scan everybody. Everyone has fight or flight. Okay? I guess most of the scientists didn't realize that in some of their early classes on physiology and psychology. Alright, so now I should charge for these consultations. I don't understand. Too much fluoride. Again, I'm saying it has to be the fluoride in the water. I should start charging for these free consultations. But here's one for Google and the Google Barges. It's just a wonder. Do you think you'll be alright if there's like some kind of tsunami? Or do you feel that, are you under maritime law? I think that's what they're doing. They're under maritime law because they're in the water. They're not in international waters, but they're under maritime law, not the law of the land. They're not on the land. You understand that, right? They're like the Noah's Ark of technology. They're building these things, and they know when something goes down, they're going to shove off and go straight to sea, trying to save themselves and some of their technology. I don't think that's a bad idea, but if it's used for anything else, then I don't know if what nature's going to do. You know, because you got to remember, it's natural selection. Alrighty then? And if you're in the ocean, over there where Fukushima's coming in, and all that radiation, I don't know, do you have enough supplies that you don't have to, if you're in the plutonium sea with that equipment, how long do you think that's gonna last? I can see you being around the world, but if you're in San Francisco, you're right there in the plutonium sea right now. Look how much money you're probably gonna waste by sitting on the water. Even I lived on my boat, and I'm not in the water right now, especially on the West Coast side. What you doing over there? Are you immune to the radiation also? Or are you just out there detecting it? Is that a giant, like, scientific lab that's testing all the waters out there? Under maritime law? Maritime Google. That's what we'll call you. But I think it's really, here's your free consultation. All the equipment and everything else that's on there is going to have a big problem with that debris. I don't know if you realize that. Alrighty then. Oh, I'm not doing it with the glasses on right now. Uh-oh. Hey. Noah's Ark of Technology, the Google Barges. That's all I got to say. It's the Noah's Ark of Technology. But unfortunately, they're in the plutonium sea. Don't know. Don't know what's going to happen with that one. Alrighty then. Heads up, Google. Plutonium sea? Doesn't sound good to me.
There's a 60% chance of M flares. But look at that, guys, as it turns around. Now, on these new images of Ison, I was trying to go through the different temperatures, and that's what you're seeing here, from the coolest up, to try to go around that comma that's being developed by that bow shock, and you see the multiple streamers that are coming around it. But notice the geometric pattern that I'm getting exactly the same in every temperature, guys. And I've seen it before. I have studied the religions from around the world, from the Hopi to the Cheyenne to the Buddha to the Hindu, and I've seen it, and you guys have seen it too all your life. I have even seen this in a crop circle, and that's amazing to me, because you always think of it as symbology, and then you see one of God's greatest creations coming through the universe, and this is emanating from it. Guys, look, you got the same things. You got a center dot, a circle, then the small, almost like a lotus petals around it, then the long ones, then it radiates out into these spirals. Look at that. If that's not a perfect copy of what they call sacred geometry, I don't know what is. Now, I'm no expert on this. I've just understand frequency and vibration and things like that, and some of the things they do. But as far as studying sacred geometry, I don't know that much about it. So some of you guys probably know a lot about it. So please feel free to look at these images and come in here and tell me what you think. Again, here, what I'm trying to do is to get everything down where I can see the hottest things in there. And there's two objects in that tail that almost look like pieces. Now, if you look at just regular pictures of the comet, that front section is so bright, it dims everything else out. I'm going to look at it, just bear with me here. I'm looking at it, different images. Notice that eye in the center. Even in the red images, it almost looks like an eye in the center, depending on the exposure. I'm not trying to get that. Even in the green, you see that? It's like an eye. Now, I know it's called Ison. I don't know, guys. It's getting crazier every day, but look at this. It's amazing to see this vibrational pattern emanating from this object coming in. Now, if I go through this, and I'm just going to highlight it, but guys, here, pause these and read them. It talks about the spiral that we're looking at. We're talking about the seed of life. And the different religions here that go through it, and I'll show you, but it's amazing to me. Again, we've seen it. I've seen it not too long ago, it was somewhere on one video about the new crop circles in the UK. I saw it on one of those, almost the exact patterns. And again, a lot of that's just copy and repetition. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what we're seeing Ison do right now is it's vibrating in through the inner solar system, approaching the sun. Here, you see it's called the yantra, the lotus blossom. And I'm just kind of putting up, these are from different places and different meanings from around the world. And like I said, pause them and read them. I'm going to look into it again. This is not something I know a lot about, but I've seen videos out there. Some of you guys do know about this. And again, check it out and point us in the right direction on this, because I believe there's a meaning behind everything here, even in the yin and yang. And they're talking about energy and the seeds of life. In each of these symbols, if you look at that, you'll see that it's almost the same thing. A balance representing new life, new seeds of life, an understanding, they say, that goes beyond language, that you can see in some of these geometric patterns. But guys, again, you've got the Cheyenne symbol of the universe, the Hopi, Kokapella, Mandela on the right. It says, symbols are a universal language understood by all beings. No conscious thoughts are needed. They are used and understood at the superconscious level by all cultures and all civilizations on Earth and throughout the greater universes. Now, here on Earth, they have been used as a means of recording historical events, and in many indigenous cultures have told the story of our connection to the cosmos, and our original star seed origins. In all civilizations and cultures throughout the ages, symbols and sacred geometry have been used in artistic depictions of sacred ceremonies and rituals which encompass the very essence of a people or a certain way of living and being. Even when the spoken language is different from tribe to tribe, civilization to civilization, culture to culture, religion to religion, the energy message of a symbol is timeless and understood by all, past, present, into the future. Certain geometrical shapes have the power to reach deep into the unconscious and affect subtle changes in the observer. Somebody check that out. Let me know what you think about that. Heads up. November 17, 2013. Guys, this is Sechier. We're in orbit ahead of Earth. Looking back, Mercury and Jupiter's on the left, just off the wingtip of the satellite. Mercury's coming into the right. That blue arrow is where Ison is seen brightening for the first time on the satellite, guys. That's neat because we'll be able to watch it now for about a week until it gets off Sechier, and it will be coming in on some of the other satellites, and we'll be updating it there. But again, it's been a faint fuzzy ball that we've had to watch, but right there, and I'm going to show you some close-ups. Now, again, we've watched that star cluster, and this is where Ison's at. We watched it come across to the other two stars just below that to the right, the last video. But now look at it. And that's why we're seeing it on the ground images getting so bright. And Bruce Gary has finally got the data crunched on this and put up some new information, and it's amazing the size. And I'm going to point that out at the end of the video and give you some an illustration kind of what we're dealing with here. But again, there's your main star cluster. We've watched the two stars that are down to the right. Their Ison just passed. It's going down. It's going to start to brighten here in the next few images. There's Ison, and why you see the stars get cloudy for a second, guys? That's the tail of Ison. And watch it come through, start to brighten. You start to see just that faint picture of a tail. But we're millions of miles from it at that point. Now, this is that new sunspot, guys, that's Earth-facing, and they're all getting active, but this is the one that had the light inside the crater today. And it hasn't gotten any smaller, but what we've had is a couple strong CMEs. They're not strong flares, so they're not showing up as flares, but they're coronal mass ejections, and Ison is coming into the right, just the way you see these coronal mass ejections firing off. in that very direction. We still, if you notice, have those same two stationary objects, and the same as in the video yesterday. Not sure what that is, guys. Now, this is the large sunspot. Now, to the bottom of that one to the right is the one that has been growing that yesterday was X-class capable. Now, it's just a dual configuration. But let's look at this sunspot. This is the one with the glowing light in it in the earlier video. Very unusual to see that. I think it's because it's just so large, we're seeing down into the bottom of it in the fire and the gas that's being ignited there. We've got so many electrons and protons and neutrons firing off that that's what we're seeing. And you see that pulse. That is that vibration of the sun. Now, this is Bruce's new information. I'll link to his website. Here it says for a 60,000 kilometer diameter VMAG 6.34. Now, that's showing right there. If you look up the side of the scale and find 6.34, you'll see that 60,000 kilometers. Now, that's what he's saying is the inner comma. Now, 250,000 is where they've rated it now, November 17th. See that? Now, that's being conservative. It's actually closer to the 350,000 kilometer line. But we're going to use that 5.51 that he's showing. Now, just as a reminder, the Earth is 12,756.3 kilometers. You see that? So I just want to kind of 3,474.8 kilometers. Now, at 250,000 kilometers, that's 20 Earths. Is that outer comma of this of Ison, guys? That's what we're looking at. Now, if you remember on the news when they first spotted Ison, wasn't on YouTube, it was NASA. They were saying 10 times as bright as the full moon. All right, this outer comma, which is going to get brighter. See what I'm saying? Each day. Now, that is over 70 full moons. I have 80 here. It's not quite that wide.
So, if it starts getting super bright, don't stare at it. It's just, it might damage your retina in your eyes. Alrighty then, do not stare at it. When it starts getting super bright out, don't stare at it. In fact, put sunscreen on. Let's continue.
Perspective, guys. Remember, the news was saying 10 times as bright as a full moon. This is 80 stretched across there. That's full moon, and this is Ison, guys. It may be a little brighter than they say it, and it's going to get brighter, but here's the dimensions. The outer comma is 70 moons. The inner is 20 moons there. So just that, if it lost the entire outside of it, you got 20 moons, right? But it usually doesn't do that until it wraps around the sun, unless a strong solar flare with a coronal mass ejection knocks the tail off. And that will regrow very rapidly. But that's the math on it, guys, and that's what I've been waiting for. I wanted to see what has changed and what we're looking at as it's coming in. It's a heads up. Be safe.
So that was BPEARTHWATCH. That's his channel. And I just want everyone to be safe out there. Don't stare at it. Just when it starts getting real bright, you don't want to damage your eyes. You don't want to damage your retina. You know how the old flash would hurt your eyes when you used to take a picture. This might be like the same thing as looking at an eclipse. As it gets brighter and brighter, I mean, the fast look might be alright. Turn away. Stay away from it. Stay out of the extreme light in case it does have that. You know, use protective lens. You don't want to damage your eyes because everyone's going to start staring at it. Don't stare at it. Look up, look away, film it if you have to, wear protective lenses. I'm surprised no one has thought of that yet but me. that I know of. Alrighty then? As he said, just be safe. He has a great channel, BP Earthwatch. Alrighty then. Oh, and let me add to this. So, as part of your free consultation, think about this, you brainiac scientists. So, if you have RFID chips and you're monitoring everybody's information and everything, and a comet comes by and takes out your satellites, then what happens? We have a lot of comets right now. You don't think it might take out any of your satellites? Alright, maybe that's why there are comets. Oh, God might be sending a comet to take care of this problem, huh?